Hi folks, and welcome to the back garden. You can see here I've got all of my chili peppers in front of me, and today is going to be all about what varieties I'm growing, and as well it's going to be an update on how they're doing, because to be honest they could be doing a little bit better, and I want to talk about the reasons for that. But amazingly, this is the first chili pepper update of 2022. If you're new to the channel, you might not know that I have a real obsession with growing chili peppers. They are my favorite plant to grow by a long way, and one of my passions really is making hot sauce from chili peppers. I absolutely love it. So what's gone wrong this season, and why am I not completely happy with these? I don't want to be too negative. This is still very early days, and I think these plants are going to catch up. They're going to look pretty good by the end of the season, fingers crossed. But one of the best things about making videos is that it's really easy to go back and see how you were doing last year. And I'll show you some footage from the peppers around this time last year where I'd potted them up and they were going into the greenhouse already. I can't do that this year. You will have seen everything has been stepped back in the greenhouse, and everyone in the comments last week was really, really helpful, pointed towards the compost. And I've since potted everything up, and lo and behold, it has bounced back almost instantaneously. It was really remarkable actually. My lettuce and brassica seedlings, as soon as I got them into new compost, they've exploded. So everything's been set back in the greenhouse. I'm not going to have room for all of these chili peppers once they're potted up to go into the greenhouse for a little while longer yet. But looking at last season, the peppers look about the same. And you might think, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is last season I was also behind, and they were a lot smaller than I would have liked. Last year, I think the main reason for that was that I had a really rubbish grow light. It was a kind of, it sort of did the job, but it wasn't very powerful and it didn't put out enough light. A lot of the seedlings were quite leggy, and they just could have got off to a better start. This year I had an amazing gift, which was a much more powerful, fancy grow light, and I was like, yes, this is going to be the year. I'm going to have amazing plants come May, and they're going to be massive when they go into the greenhouse. Unfortunately, I made a few mistakes, and these are only theories, I could be wrong, but the first, I'm pretty sure I had the light on way too high. It's dimmable, and early on in the season, a lot of the peppers developed kind of purple leaves. The purpling is kind of similar to a suntan for a chili pepper, and it's a sign that it's getting exposed to too much light, and it can damage the plants and set them back a little bit. So I think that was my first error. And I think the second is that the room temperature was too cold. We've got quite a cold, drafty old house, and these were just in a little spare room where the heating wasn't on much, and I think the ambient temperature was around 15, 16 degrees, and I think that might have just been enough to really slow them down. When I went to pot them on from their seed cells, they were between a month and 2 months old, and some of them hadn't even fully developed their root systems. I was really expecting them to be geared up, ready to go, and ready to be potted on, and I had to delay it a little bit. So they spent a long time in their seed cells. They're now in these 3-inch pots. I think they're 3-inch pots anyway, and they've been in these for about a month, and they are starting to flower. A lot of them are starting to flower anyway, and it's a real sign that they're root bound and they need to get potted on. So today, that is my main job. I'm going to be potting them on, but first, let's talk a little bit about some of the varieties. This year I put a lot more thought into what I was growing with a view to the sauces that I was hoping to make at the end of the season. Last year I had a real mishmash of things that I'd grown. I just kind of grew stuff that looked interesting, and that was great, but at the end of the season a lot of those flavours did not complement each other, and it didn't work out too well. So what I'm going to do is go through, and I'm going to start with the milder peppers, because one of the comments and one of the questions that I see the most is what I recommend on the milder side of the scale. And I do have some nice mild varieties this year. The first, this one is a Spanish giant, and this is a bell pepper. This one is part of the Chili Chump seed kit. Chili Chump is an amazing YouTuber, and every year he makes a kind of seed kit that lots of people all grow together, and it's really interesting to compare and contrast how you're all doing throughout the year. Everyone knows what a bell pepper is though. This one ripens to a nice red. It's meant to be very, very delicious, but I'm not too fussed about it, and I might just keep that one back at home in the conservatory, and it will be nice to have a pepper or two. But I don't like to put loads of time and effort into growing bell peppers because they are readily available. The next one is very interesting. This is a Padron pepper. This too is a Spanish pepper, and very, very mild, around 500 to 2000 Scoville. And this is most commonly kind of served as a tapas pepper. You grill it and you serve it with a kind of coating of salt. And I'm really interested to try these later on in the year. The next one is a Bishop's Crown. This is another one of the Chili Chump seed kit plants. I'll put the Scoville and the information on the screen now. This one looks really interesting. It's got a very unique pepper kind of shape, and it's got some interesting, quite furry leaves. I'm quite keen to see how that goes, and that is another mild pepper. A JB chili pepper growing year would not be complete, however, without a mystery pepper. I have no idea what this is or where it has come from. It just sprung up. I don't think I even had a seed in the module that it came out of. You can see it's got this really tall growth structure, lots of space in between here. None of the other peppers really have got a similar structure. I'm assuming it's one that I grew last year, but you know, watch this space, we'll find out. I really kind of enjoy having a mystery pepper throughout the year because it's always something that just keeps you guessing, something to look forward to. Yeah, I have no idea. Probably one of the Annum varieties, so once again on the milder side. The next one also Chili Chump seed kit, and this is really, really exciting. This is a really cool looking pepper called the Sugar Rush Stripey. I grew a Sugar Rush variety last year. Oh, there's a little spider on here, that's nice. There's quite a few Sugar Rush peppers, and as the name suggests, they are extremely sweet. They're part of the Baccatum family, so they can be a little floral, but people have been raving about the Sugar Rush Stripey for a little while. There's an aphid on here. I have had 1 or 2 aphids, and I have started treating these with neem oil. If you've never heard about neem oil, I will link to a video that I did up here. I did 2 videos actually, and it's probably the most useful thing that I've ever come across in the garden. It's really, really good for peppers as well. But Sugar Rush Stripey, I cannot wait to see how this turns out, how it tastes, and whether or not it will complement a sauce. The next one, very, very cool looking plant. This is the Buena Mulata. Very unique kind of purple going on, purple stem, purple leaves. The leaves are almost variegated, they're so purple. Very, very cool, and these have a really unique purple chili pepper pod as well. Once again, slightly milder, and I'm not too sure how this is meant to taste, but I'm almost growing this as a kind of interest plant, and ornamental almost, because it just looks so cool. The next one, similar to the Buena Mulata in its growth structure, I believe, and this is the Bangalore Whippet's tail. Once again, quite a mild pepper, and this is meant to produce really, really long red peppers. There's a bit of competition this year to see who can grow the longest pepper, and I think if I have a longest pepper, it will come from this variety. And really interesting is how bushy this one is, absolutely exploding with side shoots. A few of these are double planted. I was a little bit lazy when it came to potting these on, and I don't intend to keep all of them because otherwise I will, like last year, have absolutely no room to move in my greenhouse. Now we get on to the kind of mid-level peppers. These are going to be kind of 50,000 Scoville or above, and I've got 2 varieties of a Piri Piri. Most of you will be familiar with a Piri Piri. If you've ever been to Nando's, then you've tasted a Piri Piri sauce. Despite growing chili peppers for years, I have never grown a Piri Piri. I've never made a Piri Piri hot sauce. So it's a bit of a first for me, and these are off to a really good start. The 2 varieties of Piri Piri that I have are both from Chili Chump seed. This one is a Moz Piri Piri, which he collected the seed from in Mozambique. He was enamored with a plant that he found and the taste of the chili peppers. So he's brought a little taste of Mozambique back to the UK, and I cannot wait to see how that one goes. And this one is just called the Chili Chump Piri Piri, and this is one that he's been selectively breeding for flavour and productivity over the years, I think. So not too much to say about a Piri Piri, but I am really excited about those. And this one is called a Ring of Fire. Similar to a Piri Piri, but actually it is a kind of hot cayenne. So this is my cayenne I'm growing this year. I've got 2 of these, and hopefully they will be really prolific. And I found that a lot of my cayenne sauces these days just don't give me enough heat. Nice flavour, but I do love a bit of extra heat. Next one, we get on to the Chinense varieties. And this one's a little bit of a cross between. This is called a paper lantern, sometimes called a paper lantern habanero. So this one in particular is one of my sadder looking plants as well, actually. It's lost a lot of leaves, quite a lot of yellowing. That one's ready to go. So hopefully that'll bounce back. Once again, another one that I've not grown. In fact, all of the ones I've spoken about so far are new. These are all new varieties to me, apart from this one. This is the only pepper so far, which I didn't realise actually how many new varieties I was growing. But this one is one I grew last year. This is from my own saved seed, and this is the 7-pot Douglah crossed with the Carolina Reaper, 2 of the hottest peppers in the world. And last year I gave this my JBs unofficial award for the ugliest pepper. It looks foul and it packs a punch. I ate one of these raw for a Chili Chump live stream, and the taste is actually a lot nicer than I was expecting, but it doesn't take long for the heat to hit. Everything is actually tingling. I can't feel my arms. Oh, this is not okay. Actually not too bad, considering it was 2 of the hottest peppers in the world. But I did make a sauce with this, actually. I called it the hot chocolate. It was a mixture of the Douglah Reaper and chocolate habaneros. It had an amazing colour. Actually, one of my favourite sauces I made. And it's hot, but it's not as hot as I was expecting. So really excited to be growing those again. And they are some of the healthiest looking peppers I've got. And as well, this is a kind of early cross. So it was an F4 when I first got the seed, and technically this becomes a kind of an F5, I suppose. So there might be some interesting genetic variation because the pepper variety probably isn't fully stable yet. So we might get some cool stuff developing on the Douglah Reaper. Next, this is a classic. This is a Bhut Jolokia. I've grown a few kind of ghosts or Bhut Jolokias, but they've always been a bit weird. They've never looked quite right. I'm not sure how true the seeds were. This year, this is from the Devon chili farm, and I'm hoping I will have a nice confirmed Bhut Jolokia or a ghost pepper. For a long time, this was the hottest pepper in the world, and I'll be interested to see just how hot it is. And last but definitely not least, this is undoubtedly the pepper I'm most excited about growing this year. This one is called a 7-pot Bubblegum. So the 7-pot strains are famously hot. The name 7-pot comes from one pepper being enough to put spice into 7 pots of food or chili, I think. And this one is Chili Chump rates it as the hottest super hot he's ever tasted. So I'm interested in growing it to see just how hot it is, but also one of the most cool and unique peppers I've seen, the calyx, I think it's called, the kind of bit of the stem that connects the pod, gets this kind of really cool red colour, and it's just something that I'm so hopeful I get to see and kind of marvel at later in the season. And as well, I do have a few actually, which are still in their little seed trays. Now this, you can see, is full of tomatoes as well. I planted my tomatoes very late. I'm not too fussed about getting my tomatoes in too early. You know, I don't think they need babying. They grow so quick, especially when you're used to dealing with chili peppers. Most of these peppers are 3 months old now. These tomatoes are about 3 weeks old and they've already, you know, exploded. But I will be putting these on today because they do need it. I've got a few tomato varieties. I'll just flash those up on the screen quickly. Once again, all new varieties, so very excited to see how those go. But I do have a few chili peppers in here as well. These tiny little ones are called the NuMex Suave Red. And this is a pepper with a promise that I think might be too good to be true. It promises the taste of a red habanero, which is a really unique pepper flavour, but it also comes with an awful lot of heat. These are rated at just 1000 Scoville, so they're meant to have the habanero flavour without the heat that a lot of people find unbearable. Quite reasonably so, I think. And as well, at the front, I've got a few tiny little seedlings of Sugar Rush Long Peach, a pepper that I grew last year and absolutely adored, and for some reason completely forgot to sow. So this will be also a really interesting experiment to see, you know, how will a seed that was sowed at the beginning of April, will it catch up? Will it be worth sowing seeds this late or not? So that's most of the talking. All that's left for me to do is to start potting these up. I've got some nice 2.5 litre pots, which are a good middle ground before they go into their final pots for the season, which will be 5, 7.5 or 10 litre pots. That all depends on the variety of chili, how well they're doing, and as well how much space I've got in the greenhouse. I said I was going to do less peppers this year, but well, we'll see. Anyway, the main issue I have is that I don't know where my pots are. This isn't enough pots, and I'm hoping they're in the allotment shed. Well, I didn't think they were, but if they're not there, then we've got a problem, but I'm sure it will be fine. If you've got any questions about chili peppers, growing your own, or what I'm doing this season, because I did whip through this quite quickly today, please do feel free to ask me in the comments below, because chili peppers are probably the one and only thing that I've got some experience on growing, and I might be able to help you. And as well, I'll leave a video on screen now all about when to put on chili peppers that are this size, and it goes into a lot more detail on the potting mixture and the kind of methods that I use and how to know when things are ready. So all that's left for me to do is say thank you ever so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.